I could have sworn I had, but I guess I did not. There we go. Now I do. So, good morning. This is Simon with toughtrader.com and Trade and Perform Coaching doing the market preview for 8/17/2018, Friday morning. It's been a very interesting, good week. Quick legal disclaimer, if you'll read through this all, if you'd so like to do so. This is for educational purposes only. Past performance is not indicative of future results. With that being said, consistency is everything in day trading, right? Please have a good risk management plan. Trading derivatives carries substantial risk, and you can lose, right, all your trading capital if you don't have self-control and you don't have good risk management, okay? So the idea is to make money, but you have to have risk control in there. And again, I'm sharing my trade plan with you in hopes that it makes you a better trader. Take what you like, leave the rest, and have a great day while you're doing it. That's my suggestion. So, morning, Tom. Let's get to work here. So first of all, last night, check out how we traded. Or didn't mean to do that. Okay. Here's Asia, right? So it was a little bit interesting. Notice right here we opened up. This is 5 p.m. We test the purple line is value area low. This is the first support level. So look how mechanical it is. It tests the value area low just before 8 p.m. Hong Kong open. We get this rally. We blast right through 28.46 to come up and test value area high. We tested value area high to value area low. The first thing that tells me is we do have the capability of trading all the way through here. You'll see how small the deltas were all the way through. That's the only catch with HK, with Hong Kong. You want to wait to have a lead-in bar there to show some kind of rejection, especially right in front of HK open, because you can get run over straight up. However, if you look how this traded, we backside tested this area, counter rotated back up, rolled down to VWAP. At VWAP, right, we had responsive buyers just underneath. They pushed back into 28.45.46 resistance, rolled back down to the 200 period, continuing from Thursday session. Tested again, and then we roll all the way down into support in Europe. We grab the 28.38 1/4, and that is where we are balancing right now, right? So, excuse me, I apologize. I didn't go far enough. 28.38, first backside test of VWAP, rejection down. We test almost to yesterday's low at 28.34, back to VWAP, right? And so obviously there's a couple of areas that matter here. Overnight, the first thing we want to earmark before we go look at the profile is what's the biggest delta overnight. We'll play that game. So the biggest delta is this guy right here, right? So you got to get underneath him, and he's essentially Globex low. He's the biggest delta below. He's the biggest delta on top, and that's probably going to give us our framework for the open, which makes sense, right? Because we're trading below value area low. You can see how we exactly backside tested it. It's normal that it's very mechanical here pre-market. So you want to watch between 28.38 and 28.41 and see the response. It's not a clear read here for me either way. I do know that so I'm going through my checklist in the morning. What do I want to see? So the first thing I know is if we look yesterday at NQ and ES, which damn we can't see because my Zoom start without video. There we go. No. Okay. How do I shut this down? Okay, share. Okay. Minimize that. And then we get to the Zoom over here so you can see the other screen. Zoom. Let's start this out. 1 second. Join. Then meeting ID. Thank you. And I'll shut off my speaker. That's annoying, highly. Okay. how do I drag this thing? Why can I not? There we go. Here we are. Okay. There's the bonds overnight. Oops. Let me log this in really quick. Okay. Okay. Keep that in sim. And then format. Okay. Here we are. Okay. If you look yesterday, here's ES, right? Here's NQ. NQ's got an issue, right? See that 73.91? Look at that bigger picture, right? As we bump this up. Here, let me put the time frame a little bit higher so you can see it pretty easily. Okay. See how we held this level became key, that 73.91. See how it's been, if we drag this over a little bit more, that 73.91, hold on, let me put more symbol. There we go. Okay. So here's 73.91 right here. Notice it was resistance, support, support, resistance, support, right? Resistance, support. Do you see a common theme at that 73.90 level? That's a big, important level. That's a big, important level. Notice that's what gave way, right? The last time we had this whoosh all the way down into our swing low. So two things to remember today if you're looking at NQ to make a decision on whether ES is strong or not. First of all, ES and NQ did not match up yesterday. NQ is making a series of lower highs all the way through here. You can see it on the half-hour time frame. Your true swing low, like where we break down, is all the way down here below 7,200. We're at 73.91. Expect responsive buyers either here or here, one of the two, right? Expect responsive buyers on the backside test of re-auctioning this area down here at 72.70 to 72.59. 100 down from 73.91, right? Pitch at 72.91 and links you right into the swing, into the top of this structure right over here, right? 200 down, right? From 7, which is effectively 7,400 to 7,300, pitch you at 7,200 and right into that sweet spot off to the left. What I would encourage you to think about is that this area wants to be re-auctioned. Remember, the market's pretty mechanical. When you get down in this area, I would not be bearish here. And I would be cognizant that if we break this swing low, right? If we break this swing low, be careful for traps. The reason why is because I have a lot of people keying off of NQ to make their ES trading decisions. And this is important. So, right, notice here, right, here is the last swing low when you look to the left, here and here, right? Here, I'll draw this, here and here, right? Notice we break the swing low, try to recover, fail, and drive lower. However, notice that once we trap back into this series of swing lows over here, see this? Everyone gets bearish. They catch the last little tip of the move down over here, and then we trap back in right here. And we are, what happens when we trap? If you pretended like this was an intraday chart, we just go to the other end of the range in a massive short squeeze. So you take that mini picture just the same. Notice we break the swing low, we roll down, we open back in, we swing, but it couldn't make it to the other side of the range. We're now underneath the 73.91, right? So the first thing I'm looking for is if we break this low, right? Even if we break this low by a lot, like we did here, see this? So just pretend this is a 5-minute time frame instead of a 30-minute time frame. Once we trap back in, notice the first trap fails, but the second trap sure doesn't, and it gives you the rocket ship launch, even though they try to gap it down one more time. Again, pretend like this is a smaller range in 30 minutes. Look at the rocket ship. So when I get down to 73.16, right, I expect a response out of 72.70, okay, based on the TPO chart. But what I'm really interested in is not even necessarily the first trap, but the second and third traps. I'm going to look for the algo if I was trading NQ, which I'm not, but for those of you who are, looking for the trap back in. Now, if we get below here and failure to recover this swing low, opens us up for a test to this swing low, where again, you have the potential for a trap going back to August 2nd. And then the last swing low down here, which is hard to imagine we're going to make it down for almost 300 or 400 points on NQ, would be pretty disastrous, especially on a Friday. But if we get down there, my imagination says that it'll be very interesting. Again, it'll be very interesting to look for traps in these areas and getting bearish. So I want you to picture something, right? That's really important, and this applies to, are we already open? Crap. I'm not trading the first half hour, guys, so I apologize for running so late. I had computer issues. There we go. Let's clear this. Okay, so I want you to picture something, because I have this happen consistently, particularly with newer coaching clients, right? You see this big drop here. You're like, oh my God, it's bearish. I want to short. Maybe you even short here and you get rewarded because it goes all the way down. And you think the market's over. Look, this market doesn't lie. The counter rallies are a beast. You could have had someone who was sitting right here saying the market on NQ is over and it's going to roll down hard and we're going to have a major correction. You could have gotten a 300-point move, right? And it took him all of 2 days to be down on the trade, maybe 3 or 4 days. But either way, he tries to stay patient, he waits, and then he can't believe he's actually upside down on the trade. Notice that on each of these down days, see how we're moving down, right? Look at the structure. Someone could have said, hey, we're short, right? Someone could have said, hey, we're short up here, or even here said, hey, we're going to roll down pretty hard. Being correct about the roll down and initiated short positions intraday and consistently lost money even though the market rolled all the way down to the downside. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say don't shorten the hole. It's dangerous, it's painful, and there's not a clear solution to fixing it. It's a 2 out of 10 trade. It's very low odds, and you better be damn right when you get it correct. Okay, so that's the picture on NQ. It's not bearish, and certainly our swing low over here to the left, if it doesn't get violated or penetrated, you're just trapping traders to the downside. Apologies. Let me plug in my phone real quick. Turn it off. And let me turn off that speaker. There we go. Okay, so moving on with what's going on today. Let's go through that really quick. First, let's drag this over. Secondly, let's drag this over. Okay, I got the Top Step issues resolved, by the way, so I will be live trading the Top Step account for qualification purposes. The goal on that is to show you how I can make money as a day trader. Short term, I guess would be the best way to describe it. Let's get this out of the way. There we go. Okay, so now let's go look at the profile for the day, shall we? So number one, there we go. Drag you over. And I have the wrong chart up here. Okay, there we go. So first thing I'm going to notice on the day, I'm going to write this down. This is where you should be taking notes for what you're looking for. My first question is, are we trading inside prior day's range? Yes. Okay. Number two, are we trading above value area low? We are not. That becomes an important area. Failure to trade back into value area low within the first hour would make me think we have strong odds of pushing lower. What that means is not automatic short. What that means is I then go to the algos and see if it sets me up with a short, and I will press those shorts to the downside, right? But with the proper stops on it in hopes that I get an extension down. If we trap back in, there's two logical targets. There's a little anomaly right here. I don't consider it very strong. The natural target would be back to 78.46. Then there's value area high on top, 28.49. If we start consolidating above 28.49, right, and we consolidate there for over half an hour, right, once the day is open, I'm going to expect a push towards 28.58. If you look yesterday, this is where we rejected off of and rolled back down. And basically we're hovering. So notice we were trying to break out of this composite point of control, right, over here. And as long as we can get back above this value area low, that would still have us consolidating on where the 3-day value area would be from the 10th, the 13th, and the 14th, right? And that would be bullish. That's good, right? If we don't, right, and you look to the left, notice the lack of naked points of control all the way down to 28.1175. I expect a response in that 28.1175 to 28.1075. The weekly TPO, which has already been tested once, right? So I'm going to draw this. I'm going to let y'all see this really quick on a weekly. Okay. Is this 24? Wow, that doesn't look right anymore. It's right there. So see this 28, 25 area right there. See, if you look at each of these weeks, right, and you break out that 28, 25, what you'll see in each of these weeks. Okay, these are half-hour time frames. See how that 25, 28 area keeps acting as an inflection point? We break down, we backside test it, we get above, we come back and backside test it yesterday, right? And then this week, right? This was an attempt to break below. See how they pushed? We push below, can't hold, push below, up, backside test, right? What's the market telling you here? Open up in the 25, 28, long liquidate down. What's that all telling us, right? So this is where we are currently. Again, this is the week broken out, and there's a gap in the data for the weekly between 32 and 24. We may just need to fill that in intraday, right? So a couple of things. 27, 25 becomes an important area. These are half out. These are big time frames. I forget what they are on the weekly, but these are big time frames, right? So, but expect in this area, first of all, I know that the market probably wants to fill this in. It's rare that it leaves a weekly gap. See how when we gapped here, we came in and filled it. And if you look, that's true all the way through here, right? You'll see where there are gaps. See how there's a gap in here? And we came back down to fill it here and then rolled up, even though we eventually gapped down. See how this left a gap intra-week? And you can see it over here as well. We leave a gap within the week, and the market likes to come back and fix that gap. So for the weekly, right, for the weekly, there's a gap between 24.34 and 24.23. The question is, when it gets to 24.23, can it get back above 28.27? If it can, we probably go back up. If it can't, it comes down here to 28.23 and then starts finding resistance at this 27.28, expect lower. That's your weekly pivot point in essence, right? And so the first question is, if we can get below this low, 28.3475, right? I would say the ultimate target is going to be down here at 28.23 area. And obviously there's zones within there. And then we see if we can get back above 27.28. Failure to get above 27.28. Again, we'll let the deltas and the market and the algos tell us what the market wants to do, right? That's how we're going to trade this. You'll also notice that the value area low for the weekly is sitting right there at 28.19. It would be a big stretch to get all the way down to the value area low and then continue downwards, right? We're at 28.49. That'd be a 20-point stretch down. The market tends to get exhausted 20 down unless there's a big driver. Okay, example of that. Yesterday, going back to the daily, again, I'm skipping the first half hour, so whatever it does, it does. It's fine with me. We're back inside value area low, right? So if you look on this chart yesterday, I made a very big point, and I said, if we trade below, I want everyone to follow this because it's a good trade and it sets up often, okay? See how we established here? How we established here? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. See how we established 8 wide on the TPO? See how we traded below value, below 28.41, right? See how it snapped back almost all the way to value at 28.46. We closed at 28.48.50, I believe. Okay, 28.45.50, excuse me. So how that translated, what that ended up looking like, okay, remember Delta was very, very positive, right? We were over 20K. We were at 50K, right? And then if you come over here, so this was a great trade, even though it came in at the end of the day. That translates to, here's your 28.41 from yesterday afternoon. Let's go back and see it really quick. There we are. Okay, here's your 28.41 right here. That's value area low from yesterday, right? And then look where we came into. If you pull this over from the left at 28.41, remember we had this delta right here, 44.17, which was roughly sitting at 20 from 28.41 and a quarter to 28.48. And we had the base off to the left, and the top of the first 5-minute bar was also right there, right? So look at everyone who comes in and thinks, hey, we're going to tank at the end of the day, and I'm going to kill it. And they were right. If they shorted up here, and more power to you if you like to do that when the delta is so strong, right? That's great. But look, as soon as we get down here, look at the deltas on the short squeeze up. It's huge numbers, right? Starting at 3 minutes to close. 27.86, biggest delta on the way down, prints at the low. Huge reversal bar, momentum shift, 51.70, 49.47, 68.74. You know what that is? Short covering. And where are they driving it to? Right to 28.46. They missed it by a little bit, but 28.46, right, was the TPO point of control. That's why this was a maybe, right? But with the delta so strong, this was a very high probability trade. I was on coaching Daniel at the time, and I took that long. I took it a little bit early. I took it at 28.41, and I took some heat on it. But that paid extremely nicely at the end of the day. And look at my time to pay. I took this trade basically right here at 14.50, and I was done by 14.59, right? If you took this short, you started in the hardest hour, right? At 2 o'clock, you started at roughly, if you shorted up here, you shorted anywhere from 1:45 to 2 p.m. And it took you an hour, and you had to get into the very last bit of the half hour, hoping it would roll down versus 10 minutes to move it back up. So you sat an hour, and you sat through a lot of pain. And it's not just whether the trade worked or not. The question is, how much energy are you going to expand and waiting for that roll to come to the downside versus snap and go? I prefer the snap and go. It takes a lot less out of me. Okay, so for today, what am I looking for as we're looking on this chart? Number one, you can see we're pushing up. Intraday, let's go look at what we have to the left and to the right. So the first thing I'm going to notice is that we are above VWAP, right? The next thing I'm going to notice, we're above value area low, right? It's right there. I know I got to get underneath value area low. And I know my biggest delta, here's the 830 open. My biggest delta is now this 1635. If I close beneath this 1635, since it's my only delta, and again, I'm not trading the first half hour, but it's the only thing I have to reference. If I close below VWAP and I impulse move down here, my trade would be, if I traded the first half hour, the backside test of this bar. And again, I keep my stops tight. The proper stop is actually 2 ticks above this bar. The stop I keep is 2 ticks above this. Why? It keeps my stop at 2 points, and I can refire. It's $100 a contract. I can live with it. And I'm trying to get filled right at the bottom of this chart. But first, I want to see the biggest delta broken, right? Overnight, I know I've got this 11.16. Guess what? I expect people to try to respond and be responsive buyers off this bar. If we get underneath this bar, this then becomes resistance. Unless, remember, this constantly rolls, we get a bigger delta. And actually, the bigger delta now is this 12.55 is the bigger delta right there. See if there's anything else I'm missing. So actually, it's 12.55 is the bogey now. And remember, this was a sell bar that someone tried to push right off the right before the open. So scratch this. This is gone. This becomes your pivot now, which makes perfect sense. It's right in the 28.40 to 28.38. If we close underneath that 28.38, I would try for a quick backside test here and see if it could hold that 28.38 number. For those who aren't familiar, I constantly roll these numbers as they get produced by the market. Also, I'm keeping an eye on Delta. Checklist, right? If Delta's negative 20K, right, longs may work. Certainly at negative 20K, longs work better than shorts do at positive 20K, okay? But I really want to make sure I'm getting above my last best delta and see the proper pattern at the bottom for the stretch. I want to make absolutely sure that that is what's going on and that I'm not guessing. Okay, if you saw yesterday, we nailed it perfectly. These were our longs, right? Remember, we were very patient. We had nothing to do. We are long. Oops. No. There we go. Remember, we're long right here. 28.40 and a quarter. And we're long again on the backside test. So I scaled for 2 points here, I think. Reloaded the scale. I had a 2-point stop on this trade all along, right? 2 and a tick, I think. Reloaded the scale that I took, scaled it out again at 2 points higher, and left the trailer. And I kind of chickened. I think I bailed it all at 28.45 for a 5-point trade on half size. And I got one full-size trade at 2 points, right? And I ignored my sell signals. So going back to the algo, which let me pull it up really quick. Oh, there we are. Thank you. All right, so here's the long on the algo. Overnight. Yes. No, overnight. Asia. Okay, this is our same long. There you go. 28.40, we're breaking out. That bar breaks you out, right? Again, you technically got a sell signal that I ignored, right? But had I done this properly and waited for my next sell signal to materialize, instead of taking the 28.45, my first sell signal would have come out at around 28.50, roughly. Right on this bar is the first time I get a sell signal, right? So I'm looking for the first bar in a series to print. And then if I use these bars, often my stop's only half a point. In this particular case, that was the biggest delta break of the day. And delta was above 50K. I mean, above 20K. I'm going to ride that. I'm going to take my 2-point stops when that happens. I'm going to ignore this. It's just too strong a possibility of getting this push when delta is that strong, right? So for today, I'm looking for delta to align, right? I'm watching to see the PA. It's really important. This step is important, right? Look at the PA we have so far. We're bouncing between 28.43 and 28.41. We're not breaking up and we're not breaking down. We're just dancing on VWAP. Just like yesterday, let's let the market develop and make its break and then take the backside test would be the plan, or let the rotations open up. Either way, really, really important. I expect the first touch of zones all the way through here to develop. And if I get to the end of the first hour, see how we can't establish below value area low, which is the pink line? I want to see us consolidate and an inability to get back above for at least half an hour. And then I want to look for shorts. And where am I pushing? Back to 26.75 to 28.25. I'm looking for responses because that's the weekly pivot point. Everyone's looking at that. There's an open gap at 28.22. It's a settle price. I'm not so big on that. This is an untested value area low at 28.1675. And then there's support at 28.12 to 28.1050. 28.06 is another untested value area low. Notice I don't have anything down here, so we need to correct this. 28, please add 27.90 to 91.50 is a valid area. I don't have anything here. 2,800 is a round number, tends to attract noise at least, but don't be surprised by a counter rotation in that area. Really, really important here, guys. Let the market set you up. Don't try to do it the other way. Let the market set you up for your trades. Let me just erase all this. There we go. Okay. Let the market set you up. Don't you be the one to try to figure out what the market's going to do. You want to see delta go negative, then stay negative if we're going to roll down. Notice its inability to get positive. But if delta all of a sudden pops positive and we can't get below value area low, expect an eventual trade to value area high. It's Friday. We usually get balance. So someone asked me a good question when I mentioned the balance to them last night, which is, well, how do you know the difference? Okay, so if we're going to break down, first of all, we'll be below value area low. Secondly, the rotation size will increase, just like on Wednesday. what was it, Wednesday? It was clear overnight the range had expanded. We already knew going in their inventory was short. They couldn't shake out the overnight inventory, was a big clue. We couldn't even test back into the prior day's low. There's a lot of things that told us. We're opposite. We're inside prior day's low, okay? Usually means chop, right, which is what the market's doing. We're not driving up and we're not driving down. What does that tell me immediately? Hey, let off the gas. Don't try to press your bets, right? If you're in a trade and you get 2 points, take a normal scale, because if this is going to be your grind, yeah, you might get 10 points, but you might just have it come right back on top of you and stop you. And if there's no trade today, let's say we sit in a 5-point range all day long, your job is to protect your capital, right? Not to trade every day. Our goal is to make money. Trading every day is not necessarily conducive to making money. There's some days where it's okay to go, there's nothing there, or you don't have it that day, one of the two. Like what was it, Wednesday, I was exhausted, right? I just couldn't get my brain together to put all the pieces in place. So it's only one day. And remember, Monday and Friday tend to be statistically the narrowest range days of the week. And I don't want that. There. Right click, duplicate chart, analysis, clean chart. Let's just do it on a 5-minute look. What was last Friday? Was the 10th. Okay. Look at what it did last Friday before the quote giant roll down. Number one, we gapped down. Number two, they didn't roll it down immediately. They held it all the way up, almost all the way till 12:30 in the afternoon. Notice how much easier it got to trade after the break. Before the break, notice break to new low, push back in, break to new, here I'll point these out. Break to new high, push back in, break to new low, push back in. Notice that we break the low. Notice that we backside test the low, and then we roll hard to the downside. Notice that on the 5-minute, when we close above it and break the high, notice the first backside test at the top of that 5-minute, rotates back up. We then chop inside the first 5-minute bar. We then have the first or the second close below the first 5 minutes. This is first one. This is first close. This is second close. Backside test. Back to the open of that first 5-minute bar. Then we flush to the downside. So if someone told you on Friday, hey, I nailed the short, right? I hope they had location up here, because if they shorted anywhere in here, they waited for 3 hours and got chopped to death, right? So that's why when you look at this, notice that the market opened up where? Around 10:30 a.m. when London closed. We just chopped until that was done. And it really wasn't that fantastico a day. If you shorted here, that person was betting that we were going to break that first 5-minute bar, get below IB low, hold below IB low on the backside test, and then flush. It wasn't that easy a trade is what I'm trying to say. And the easier trades were actually the breaks at the first 5-minute low and the breaks, excuse me, the opening rotation low and the opening rotation high for the trades back in. And I promise you, there was a big delta that printed up here that on the backside test you could have taken to the downside. And then I'm going to promise you there was a big delta right here, because I can see the response off of it right there for the push back up, right? And so you could have spent all morning trying to get that short and really gotten run over, or vice versa, trying to make that long work for an extension. It's just balance, and it was balance all the way till 12:30, right? So keep that in mind. Even though it was a gap down, they chopped sideways all the way through the Friday. I say this because I see a lot of people talking about, boom, I knew it was short. That's a hard way to get this short. Not very many traders can hold all the way through this day and then expect it to roll down and close at the low, which is the low odds trade, right? The low odds trade. And this is what encourages traders when they see this. They look at it and go, oh, I can catch the low of the day. And you have it 2 days in a row, right? Look what happens to all those guys the following day. They try to short those lows again and stay short, and they just get crushed. Look how the week played out from there, right? And they keep trying to repeat that because they see 1 or 2 days of closes on the low, and they just end up getting bone crushed. So stay flexible. Anyways, I don't have another setup. We are, I'm going to close this. Really. So I am waiting for either a setup from the algo, right? So if you look now, see how we've impulse moved below in that 1635. Your trade is the backside test of 28.41 1/4. Your stop should be 28.43 1/4, 2 points. if you run it at 28.41, add a tick. You're front running this by a tick, which is fine. And that says you expect it to roll to the downside. Your delta's a little bit negative. Maybe you get it, maybe you don't. It looks like it's just chop and balance to me. Okay, it looks like it's just chop and balance to me. And I'm going to wait till my eyes light up and it's clear. If I was going to target anything for a short prior to whatever econ we have at 9 a.m., it's going to be this bar right here. I'll be waiting until after 9 a.m. to do any trading. And then here, let me split the screen really quick so we can see both algos. And what I'm going to do to help us out is split that screen a little bit. Okay. And then I'll have the profile on my other chart and I'll update it as it continues, right? So for right now, there's nothing for me. There's literally nothing for me to do. We're now underneath value area low. We're right into support from overnight. It's just not clear to me, so I'm going to wait before I pull the trigger on anything. Bonds are relatively strong. They're knocking on the 145 door again, right? And I'll see if they can. I'll see if they set up anything, I'll take it. If they don't, I won't. That's pretty much simple. The deltas have gotten pretty small up here from overnight on the bonds. Again, bonds, this is the last day of paper trading. I am going to take it live on Monday. And there we go. And right now what we got to get below is back inside of, for today at least, we've got to get underneath 144, 22, and 22.30 seconds for me to see anything of a positive momentum push to the downside. And we've got to break yesterday's low. We got to get below and hold below 144 to make anything work to the downside. We haven't been able to do that so far. So that's my 2 cents. Here, that's the backside test right there, that 28.41.75, that biggest delta, right? And of the 11.68. You don't want to see it above these two guys. They'll squeeze them out. But again, the delta is not all that negative, and I'll wait till after 9 a.m. to try to pick my battles, if that makes sense. Does anyone have any questions, guys? The important thing is that you know exactly what you're looking for in your trade and that you understand, again, the golfing analogy works. Is it a fast course? Are the greens fast? Are they slow? What are the conditions like? And these conditions are slow conditions and grindy conditions. It's hard when it's grinding like this to go, I'm going to get a 10-point trade when there's no movement, right? On the other hand, I'm looking for breaks to the upside because we've been strong, right? Bears have been completely unable to capitalize on rolls to the downside. They get squeezed right away, right? And markets have tended not to open up until we break the prior day's low or hold below the prior day's low. So if it weren't for the fact that we were heading right into econ, I would care less. I believe, can someone correct me? It's OPEX day. Is that correct? Again, stuff I don't really care all that much about. Peter, am I right? And 28.27, thank you, Ralph, is pointing out. Yep, I sure can, Christina. Christina asked what an anomaly is. So, again, mind over markets. But so according to Dalton, these are Dalton's rules, not mine. Anywhere where there's a TPO or volume point of control, that's automatically anomaly. But so this is the anomaly, the only really anomaly that stands out right here. But there are places where you would say there's unfair prices. So that's the anomaly. You would expect rejection, except the point of control, you'd also expect chop. See how you have this 1C time frame just kind of sticking out like a sore thumb? The market tends to want to replace that. The anomaly is from here to here. And the best trade at an anomaly is to, usually what the price action I would expect is a tag in and a tag out. But the best trade for an anomaly is when it's the last anomaly, either coming from high to low or low to high, either way. And you trade. So in this case, let's say we came from the top side, right? I would expect an initial pop in, pop out. That's usually a 1 or 2 point trade there. Sometimes in a strong bull market, that's it. That's all you get is the pop in, pop out, and it's gone. But the best ones are when it gets below, establishes below, because it gets people really bearish. then you get back above, first backside test, that's usually the monster pop to the upside. Now, obviously it doesn't work that way every time, but that's what I'm hunting, because once we establish below, we establish back above, we get the backside test, it can be a monster trade. Let me see if I can find an example of that. Okay, so see how the anomaly was right here, and in this case we traded right into it. In this case, see how we didn't break the anomaly, we just traded right into it and took off, right? But see, okay, so this is a good example. See this anomaly here? See how we hypothetically, since we opened up, here, let's erase the lines. Again, these aren't half-hour bars, so forgive me for that. We open up, we get below, we establish above this anomaly, below this anomaly, we get back above on the B period, and see how the C period, here I'll draw the line out. See how we come back above on that B period and close? That yellow line is where the B period closes, and then we just tap right on top of it, and then we rocket launch. That's what I'm looking for, right? That also happened to coincide with the value area high from the prior day. And then when you look on top here, see that so see this right here, this is the last anomaly that needs to be fixed. So see how it established above in G period and J period. So now if we were to get below and establish on a 30-minute time frame, okay, so see that right there? We established above and below. Unfortunately, we did it in Asia, but once we established above, we established below, and it's the last anomaly in that profile that needed to be repaired. And that completes the auction to the upside, and now you can get the rolls to the downside. And this trade doesn't work out nearly as much short as it does long. Anyways, that's a very short 2-second lesson in anomalies, but it's anything that sticks out. If you'll go to YouTube and listen to the endless droning, I love Dalton, but God, listening to him speak is hard. But he drones on and on about anomalies, and he'll give you more information than you ever wanted on anomalies. Here's the 2-second important thing about anomalies. They're unfair prices. Once they get tested above and below, it tends to complete the auction, particularly when it's the top or the bottom of a profile, and we can go out, and then the market can go back to whatever else needs to be fixed in that profile and move along. So long story short, that's what that is. So I will have this over here so I can see the day develop. Erase all lines. And then we will look for our signals as they set up through the course of the day. You can see we're testing up into this biggest delta right here. A rejection out of that delta, right, would set us up for a roll to the downside if that occurs, right? So it looks like they're attempting to reject out now. Delta's getting a little bit worse this morning. We'll see if they can actually get any punch or follow through to the downside, okay? And see how we came right up against that biggest delta and starting to roll down? Now we have to get past the delta to the left, right? So it's just in a chop area. And that's the other thing you want to ask, is there stuff sitting on top of one another? You want to wait till it kind of gets cleared up so that you can see how the market's responding and or not responding, right? The other thing is you want to keep a loose eye on NQ. It was really weak yesterday, okay? And I do have my eye on it. ES didn't follow it yesterday, but that usually doesn't last very long. And NQ is testing near its lows of the day right now. So just keep a leery eye. It's retesting yesterday's. It's actually below yesterday's low, and it's below that breakdown low. So you want to keep an eye on that. Make sure that they don't do anything dramatic, right? That would be my suggestion. So anyways, I'll be right back. Let's see if this opens up for us a little bit. Delta's negative, but not horribly negative. I don't have any signals one way or the other. So as soon as something pops up, I will let you know. And by the way, this is a great example of the momentum trade setting up and stopping you early. You would have shorted at 28. So on this, if I had followed this against the first half hour and I don't trade there, But if I'd followed this, this would have been an entry for a short right here at 28.3850, right? See how the white flag formed right there? That would have stopped me out at 28.3950 for 1 point. And when this trade works, I tend to get big extensions. So that's where you have to measure it against, hey, can this thing actually roll to the downside or not? And what you'll also notice that's interesting is once you get above that bar, if it triggers a stop and it gets above, often it'll backside test it and push. We're just in the chop area right now, guys. This is the bottom of the chop area, top of the chop area. Let's see if it works out and if they can do anything. Again, ES was strong yesterday and NQ was weak. So let's see what happens. Anyways, I've got one quick phone call to make and then we'll get to work. I'm actually going to leave the YouTube open. People can watch us work today. I don't mind. And they can make, if they want to join us, they can. If they don't want to join us, that's cool too. So we'll see if anything sets up. I will distinguish how I'm trading the small account versus the large account. And I guess, so in full disclosure of that, I took a scalp on the backside of the 28, right here, 28.41 on this rejection bar. I shorted here and I covered right there. And again, it was just to test the Top Step Trader account, but I'm going to call now and make sure that the trade's registering on their server. So I will be right back. Give me a second.
Thank you for calling Top Step. This call is being recorded for training and
Hey, Ashley, this is your favorite person, Simon Bosbos. How are you? I'm all right. Can you look at my account and see if the trade registered or not? I ran one trade. You do see the E-mini trade. Great. So P&L should be up roughly less commission, $70. Okay. Okay, fair enough. Then we're in business. I appreciate your help so much. Oh, just so you know, if anyone ever asked you, if anyone ever asked you about the Sierra chart, once you reset it, you have to log out and log back in. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know. That's all right. Yeah, so no problem. You've been great. You don't have to. Yeah, you're great. You don't have to apologize for anything. I just wanted to help you in case you run into someone else with the same problem. It was that easy. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye. Okay, woohoo. We're finally up and running on Top Step Trader, and I have a positive P&L on that account of $75. So remember, the rules there are a little tighter. You can't lose more than $500 in a day. You can trade a max of 3 contracts, right? And the whole point of me doing this is to show you with a small account, trading the big delta, trading against the big deltas and the best setups, right? So I have as long as I want to build. I got to get up to $2,000 in profit. And these are the rules. Here, let me pull them up for you so you can all see them. They're hard rules for most people if you don't have discipline. Okay. So there's the rules. Okay, starting date, August 17th. Trade a minimum of 5 days. There's no maximum time. You can take as much time as you want to get those 5 days. Reach the $2,000 plus profit target. Do not hit or exceed the $500 daily loss limit. I've reduced that to $300 for myself, so I make no mistakes in coming nowhere near violating that rule. Do not trade more than 3 contracts at any one time, right? So I've made that easy. I have a max contract size of 2. I don't want to violate it. Do not allow your account balance to go below $28,500. Only trade permitted products in the permitted times. That's a pretty easy, that's not a big deal, right? In addition, right, so let's go to here real quick so you can see this. The tricky part on this, it's actually pretty good if you can do it, how it works is, by the way, they're not in the business of running a trade desk. They're in the business of educating people how to trade. It's all right. There's nothing wrong with it. But this is really to drive people to pay to learn how to trade. It's a really great idea. Okay. So here's the rules. Step 1, profit target, minimum days. There's no maximum time limit. You have to trade, enter and exit a trade on 5 days, not consecutively, right? Only trade during permitted times. It's pretty easy. You can't carry over from the close. It's even before the close. 3:10 p.m. You have to be flat all your positions. You can reopen in Asia. You have to close again at the latest by 3:10 p.m. Don't allow your account balance to hit or exceed the trailing minimum drawdown. They talk about that a little bit. Trailing minimum drawdown, what it means. Trailing maximum drawdown is the best thought as a minimum account balance. For instance, the trailing maximum drawdown for our 50K account is $2,000. That means when you start the count, balance cannot drop below 48K. The number is calculated at the end of the trading day in the trading combine, which means that at any point during the trading day, you can drop below the minimum account balance, but you must be above it at the day ends. Don't go below that minimum. It's ridiculous. In the funded account, the rule is calculated intraday, which means the balance falls below the minimum account balance. You will be pulled from your trades right away, and the rule is considered broken. So you might as well trade that way in the combine, right? The trailing maximum drawdown is calculated from your account balance high. So if you make $500 on the first trading day, your account balance will be $50,500, which will make your trailing maximum drawdown $48,500. You can never use your P&L as your cushion, is what this means. Okay, $2,000 from the account balance high. If you were to lose $500, the next day your account balance goes back to $50,000, but your minimum account balance will remain at $48,500. This is how they keep people. Okay, so this is the part where people have a rough time. Most traders go, my account's now $55,000. I've got $5,000 to trade against. They're saying, no, no, no. You've always got, in my case, I did the smallest one just to prove it can be done. You've got $1,500 to trade against, right? And remember, the trading desk opportunity is a pseudo opportunity because they're really not trying to develop long-term traders. They're trying to push you into education. So you've got to be disciplined enough to never violate that rule. You can never draw down more than $1,500. You have to be someone who can come in every day, tag it, bag it, and go. And it can be done, but that's the hard part about this. I think the only rule I disagree about is the $1,500 max drawdown. I spoke to them extensively. Once you get funded and you can prove that you're consistent, they'll increase that max stop drawdown, but it will always be tight. They don't ever want you going from 50 to 16 back to 50. And if you violate any of these rules, either before you're funded or after you're funded, you're done. They don't care how, if you could have made $300,000, right? You violate the rule one time, you're out. And you have to start the whole deal over again, right? I'm doing this just to simply show that this can be done day in, day out. My target is to make between $200 and $400 every day, not draw down more than $300. It means I have to be really, really specific with what I am taking and how I'm managing risk. By the way, we got another short signal that's valid against this bar right here, okay? And that short signal is valid until this prints another trade that says, hey, we're reversing back up. NQ is getting pretty ugly, and you can see Delta's fallen off a cliff here. So just keep that in mind, okay? We've broken to new lows on the Delta. You want to keep in mind a couple of things. First of all, so what are the important numbers here, right? And what puts us into trend mode, okay? So let's get our 20K marked off. I thought I had that fixed, but I don't. I'll get that done later. Roughly 20K, roughly 20K. I can get that specific one. roughly 20K, above or below 20K, number one. Next. Our swing high is right there, 786 positive delta. Delta's been negative all morning, right? Our swing low prior to the open, right, was, well, damn, it looks like we've just, oh, wait, I see what the problem is here. Here we go. Sorry about that. Let's try this again. There's 20K up, 20K down, and our swing high has been 0. So we have not been above, delta's not been above or in positive territory all night long. That's your swing high, right? And we just broke down below, like that pink. And now we'll dash it since we know that's broken. Okay, we've broken the swing low and we're below it. Clearly, we have momentum to the. We're starting momentum to the downside. NQ is ugly. I want to show you. We held the zone, the white zone here. See how we opened up at the white zone, tested down into it, responded, came back up, bounced. Now we're underneath. Expect this to serve as resistance, right? Clearly served as support. You know you got traders trapped in there on NQ. The support, it's off the other computer. ADD man's having issues. Hold on a second here. So notice we are now down here below this key support area. Look to the left. That was the last swing low before this pump up. They're going to want to defend that from there all the way down to the low. If we get below 73.16, it can be ugly. There are anomalies below. The next one I had was 72.70. This is where I expect a response. And I probably, since we're so slow and grindy, not just blasting, I probably expect a lot of rotation and counter rotation on the retest of Wednesday's low. You'll have all retail traders going in there trying to hold that low for a double bottom. If it breaks, you got to be cautious for a trap back in and a push back. And I would expect my next strong response like we got here, down here. Wednesday's low is a toss-up. I'm not sure. And I'm not trading NQ actively at all. And the reason for that is, in that combine, NQ holds nasty surprises for traders, right? I need lots of stop room to work that trade in and out. I don't have that luxury with Top Step Trader, so I'm not trading it, right? Again, my whole point is to show that if you have a small account, you can trade, which the rules are different than how I trade my large account, right? But you can trade quite differently. And remember I said this morning, if you wanted to be aggressive, oh, what am I showing? That's the bond. Let's get rid of this. Right. So I said this is your biggest delta right here. Here, pop this out. No, don't do that. There's your biggest delta up. There's your close underneath. Either here or here. One of these two will clear a close. There's your backside test right into the delta, and down she rolls. What do we have downstairs? We have this 1160. We've made it past this guy, which was, so this guy, see how we've closed underneath him now? And they backside tested him right here. It's really mechanical right now. Backside tested and rolled down. And now we're testing this 1116 here, which isn't very strong, but that's what we have down there. I'll highlight it. And that will be Globex low, right? And remember, so this is interesting. Delta's pushed below the low, but price hasn't pushed below on ES. And I'd be careful getting bearish at looking at NQ and watching ES because we could simply trade to the low and then trade all the way back. Remember, Fridays tend to be balanced days. So I'm watching the relationship. If Delta gets below 20K, I would expect a break of the low and that low to go. If we don't break 20K and we test the low, I'd expect a response back up. And then VWAP becomes my next interesting area. And what I'm looking for is the big deltas to print as the day proceeds. and or for the algo to trigger me in. You see, and I missed it, by the way, this was the first trigger after the sell indication. You can see this is your first short, right? But it gave you almost an immediate cover right here. That didn't work out. And again, it's because we're not falling that hard. We're inside balance, so that's normal. This is your next short trigger, and we still haven't received a cover signal off this. But technically, this signal is still valid because actually there's no technically. It's still valid because the counter hasn't triggered for a to stop the trade out. So if you had shorted this bar at 38, it rolled to 36, and it's still valid as long as it doesn't violate this 38.75 right there. As long as it doesn't violate that, that trade is still valid for a short. Now, I don't trust the short side on a Friday. I think we usually have balance. This is an indicative to me. This is either going to be a very slow grind down, or it's going to trap a lot of people trying to force the short against what NQ is doing, and I'm not at all interested in that. So at any rate, long story short, I'm waiting for a big delta to show up. I haven't seen that show up yet. It will at some point, and then I'll probably be trading around that today, and I'll be looking for big stretches. At this point, we don't have anything significant to really talk about. The ES is what? -8 points, right? In the range. Let's see what the range is for the day. Really? No, the range is okay. 28.44 to 28.36, almost 10 points. So I stand corrected about that. So this short signal that triggered all the way back over here, this one, is still valid. You got to remember that's a momentum signal, and you can just have to sit on it until the next flag appears. It can take 2 hours sometimes, 3 hours until it rolls back. So we're looking also, notice that we have a momentum trend line to the downside right now. That's roughly this, right? Break above that and get behind these, you push back up. And then I'm looking for a big delta to print. Notice we're getting down here. Instead of the deltas getting bigger, they're getting smaller. I want to see the opposite. I want to see deltas get smaller so I can get back above. Right now, this is going to serve as resistance. So I want a big delta to form down here. I want them to flush so I can get above and take the trade the other way. Okay, so I'm watching. And what we're pushing into here, see where they're responding? That's that delta from off to the left. Biggest delta, I'm going to push down. We tag it. Someone sees it. The computers know about it, and they push it back up. Conversely, you get underneath them, the backside tab, right? And again, you're shorting in the hole, so you don't want to get above this. These work best when we're starting to break down. But if we're going to flush, this will come for a quick backside test and roll down. You just got to watch for the trap back above. Stretch still matters. The trades are better on stretch. And then remember, over lunch, when we've been testing those big deltas over lunchtime, the trade has taken almost 2 hours to work out. At times, hour and a half, right? So see how we've come down here, and all we did is we came back and tested against 1132. Again, they're not very big deltas. Notice that cumulative delta has trapped back in to the swing low as well. So notice it broke the low without price breaking the low. That's a divergence right there, right? So it's generally not what you want to see, right? Is a breaking low. And so now you want to see if we test this low. You just want to be cautious here. That's all I'm saying. It's not obvious. We haven't broken the low yet, and they are playing around with. They are playing around with this. I'm going to keep an. Actually, I'm not going to keep an eye on NQ, but you want to watch NQ. That's what's driving a lot of this trade, right? And it's not moving fast enough for me to get a clean setup yet. So all I did was take one trade to test, and I have 1.5 points on one contract. That small account. I didn't take it in my regular trading account. I was just testing to make sure it worked. It did work, so I'm up and running, and we'll see where we open up to. Okay, so I'll be back in a couple minutes. I'm going to run and refill my coffee. Bonds are pushing above 145. Stocks are pushing down, I'm going to assume, in conjunction with NQ. And I got a feeling whenever we find that bottom, they will reverse it and take it back the other direction. So let's see what they do. I'll be back in a couple minutes. And again, on YouTube, I'm going to leave that open for the day so y'all can see what's going on. But we are definitely firing in short territory here. This is telling me that we're in potential trend condition. This delta isn't telling me we're in potential trend condition. If it gets below 20K, I'll change my tune on that. So anyways, I'll be back in a couple minutes, guys. I expect to find my trade somewhere near London close. That's what I'm looking for. Hey guys, Bill has pointed out where I have missed the mid of the gap zone on the chart, which is fine. See how we came right off that? It's just mechanical right now. And Bill's pointing out that that mid of that gap is well, where did you say it is, Bill? 28, 30, 75. So I need to mark that off, and I will. There we go. So look at what we're going to come back up and test again. See how they're holding this? So what's the big delta above? Still this guy all the way over here is the resistance point. Test back to VWAP would be normal, right? And again, we're responding off of this guy over here with a push back up. Let's see where we go. We still don't have a big delta. It's a decent delta divergence there at the bottom. And again, I think they're just messing with NQ. The pace is still, this is just chop grind with a downside bias, right? So they're harder to trade, at least for me, they're harder to trade when it's like that. Bonds are advancing over 145. And so it's interesting that's showing a flight to safety, but there's not a direct correlation. I'm looking for a big delta to print on the bonds on top. 28.35. Wow, look at that. Close above, backside test, roll on up. Let me fix this. Okay, so this is where that stop comes into place. See how we came down? This triggered the short, right? This triggered the first short, stop. This triggered the second short, right? That's your stop right there. That bar is where you would have stopped. So it wasn't a huge P&L, right? It was 2 points. The whole point is on this algo isn't that it only gets 2 points or it gets more than 2 points. The whole point on that algo is, first of all, this works more effectively above value area high or value area low for obvious reasons, right? But the next part about this, which is important, and we're coming up to test VWAP, right? So again, we're in balance, right? Traders trying to make this a trend day up or a trend day down, having a difficult time, which makes sense. And Q is down 53 points, but has bounced well off of its low of 73.21. So I'm just keeping a little eye on that. Again, ES has not been following NQ, and anyone who gets bearish at the low, the volume point of control right now is at 28.37 and a quarter. And then our biggest delta back here on this whole roll down came at the low at 1680. I would expect a backside test of that to get a response. If we break below that, right, that lets us know we're probably making a run for the mid of the gap and then to this 26.25. I still don't have a clear read of anything that I'd go like, oh my gosh, I've got to go. We are potentially breaking our downside. Why is this off? Hold on a second. Something's wrong. Because that should not have printed there. Hold on one second. I had to change something. That is highly unusual. To print like that. Highly unusual to print like that. And we're about to be underneath. We've now been underneath value area low for an hour. So I would assume that the potential there, the odds have increased, that we can get a push to the downside here, right? So notice this has been the top of the balance area for 3 trading days, this whole area up here. And the balance area, meaning the area we spent most time in, has been actually right here to here. That has been the top of the balance area. We attempted to break above. You would assume a backside test into this would have some resistance. This is just telling you where the history of the trade has been. That's all it's telling you. The volume point of control is at 28.3750. And I am watching closely. I don't see anything laying up. If anyone does, let me know. Ralph has a short at 38.25, not comfortable with the stop right around VWAP. I agree with you, Ralph, on that. By the way, for those who are new in the room, if you have not, let me give you a link to where is the invite on this thing? There we go. Copy, and I'll post it on the Twitter stream for those who are visiting us in the room. There's the Slack channel. A lot of the conversation takes place on Slack, and you're welcome to join us in there. Okay. I don't have a low volume node or anything. This profile is just really flat. See this? There's just no, because we have no speed, the profile is just flat. The most obvious low volume nodes all the way up here at 2842, right? We're one timing to the downside. We've started to one time. So that would end if we traded currently above. Really, get rid of that. 28.4150, so 28.4175 ends the one timing to the downside. Actually, we haven't even started one time to the downside. We're just inside the first 30 minutes. So I'd assume a break above or a break below would give us the direction we're going to go. We're still inside that first half hour A period. I believe that's correct. No, we're one timing. It's at 28.4175. We're holding below prior session's value area low. See how we backside tested back up into that at 41.50. Actually, it's 41.25. Okay, and holding below that opens the possibility of the roll to the downside, right? So I'm watching the profile. See how fat the volume distribution is? It's not, there's no ebb and flow because there's no speed, right? It's just we're all piling on top of one another. So we'll wait till it develops. What is this? Oh, no. Sorry, let me switch this back. There we go. That fixed that problem. So you'll notice that we have the momentum trend line, and we have not broken it, meaning we need to close above these two guys to get a reversal. And you can see we pushed right back up into that 38.25, 40. It's all locals. This is all incredibly mechanical through here, guys. It's just like, that's why we're not getting any big rotations. We're just trading for ticks, right? Because it is heavy, right? And you'd think the mid of the gap would want to get tested. They're just going to make you work for it all the way through. We're now back below the overnight, the Globex low for Delta, right? So we'll see how they respond to that. There's really nothing for me to do one way or the other here, except wait patiently. This is about to fire a short signal, and that short signal, if it holds, right, will fire at 28.36.25, right? The stop would be 2 points on that if it fires, right? So I'm keeping an eye on that. That's a momentum signal. Again, the stop is always 2 points on that. It's firing down into support, so just be aware. It's firing. I agree. It's firing into the biggest negative delta. I'd agree. At negative 1660. So as I said, I expect balance there. If it this is a hard area to make a short work because you're also dealing against 28.34. So I'm just going to watch how this plays out again. Okay. Again, if you take this trade, the stop is 2 points. Stop you would trigger at 36.25, right? If that were to actually this triggered. Interesting. It just shifted. This triggered the short right here, and this triggered a cover almost immediately. That's the problem with the short at the bottom. Okay, so that triggered again another short right there. Again, the stop would be 28.38.25. Okay, so I'm going to actually take that on one contract in the Top Step Trader account. So I shorted 28.36.25. I'm stopping 28.38.50. I'm giving it one more tick, really more than it needs. I'll probably just manually cover it if it gets above 37.25, because it shouldn't get back above this bar when it works properly. So I'll probably just manually stop it at 37.25. I have a hard stop at 38.50. So it'll be 2.25 max stop. And again, it's firing right into the low of the day. You're going to have to break this guy. It's not the best setup in the world. Okay, so I don't want it above that 37.25. So it's just chop city is part of the problem here. And it's back to 37.25. 37.50. Or it's just chop, chop, chop. I haven't covered it yet, but I'm close. You know what? It already printed me a stop out right there. It's just super chop, guys. So just call it stop 38. It hit me 38 and a quarter before I saw it. It printed the stop right here at 37. I didn't see it. Sorry, I was too focused. So that would put me now down $25 in the account for the day. And thanks, Bill. You did have a good point of pointing to those chopping in the biggest delta. So again, that algo works a lot better when we've broken value area low and when we've gotten outside of the prior day's range, which is the other problem here. All right. We're backside testing the bottom of the anomaly, 38 and a quarter. This is awful trading, guys. Just wait till it opens up. And the point of control is still sitting right there at 37.50 for the day. And NQ is just whipping back and forth in this 50 to 60 down area. We will open up at some point. Delta improving and back above the low of the day. Keep that in mind. Into VWAP. Tested. I messed up that trade sequence. You know that? Thank you, Bill, for pointing out on the backside of that test. That was helpful. I'm mad at myself. I knew I shouldn't have that NQ up at all. Chop and balance, guys. Delta's improved significantly there. We're just trading the range on a balanced day. Pushing back up into value area low, backside test. Into this 2840. And it's hard when you're not printing any big deltas to find what you're working off of. I'm just dancing around VWAP. Again, I think long is easier than short almost every day of the week. And when we're heading into London close as well. Expect algos over the next 4 minutes or so. And NQ is not below this week's low. Like I said, when we got down there on NQ, I thought that they would hold. They haven't even tested it yet. They may still come back and test it, but they haven't yet. 7340's obviously become pretty important to NQ. And we're heading towards London close. This is a backside test of VWAP for the first time. It'll usually reject off that first time test of VWAP once we've gotten underneath in the US session. Again, without any big deltas, it's really freaking hard to read this. Top fest, guys. Watch out. They stay too long on that NQ down there. ES is not weakened. It's not below prior day's low, right? It'll pull NQ back up. So it's a tug of war between the two. Those will not stay separated forever. One of those two will match up together. But until it does, it's just Chop City. Is there a tug of war between going into S&P 500 and coming out of NQ? But eventually they'll line up. But they've tried to press down 2 times and they haven't been able to make it. If anyone else has a better read in the room, guys, please share it. I don't. Daniel, not only that, but that's a big weekly area on that 28.28. It's just doing nothing. It's just we're getting shorts piled in. Now they're piling them all out. Right? It's literally doing nothing. That 1660, I should have gotten long against that. And this momentum indicator is tough when we're just balancing in between, right? This is just a perfect balance day. Look at the profile. They're just sweeping over. That's 30 minutes, right? The market's not doing anything. Look at it compared to yesterday, right? We're actually ranging. We're actually trading inside of value, right? We got to get above 28.41 or below 28.36 to move. But this is just going to continue to grind one way or the other with no sharp responses, right? Suck you in for a point, toss you out for a point. We got to see this is the bottom of the value area right there, 28.41.50. That's what we keep banging up against. And they're not 28.41 and a quarter, and we're just sitting against it. That's all we're doing on that half-hour time frame. So, and look at all the volume. It's a totally balanced distribution, right? This is where traders get chopped up, and where you, as an individual trader, want to do zero. I say it again, you as an individual trader, you want to do zero. Again, I think we'll open up after lunch, not before. And I definitely don't want to trade where all the volume's equally distributed. There's no one to defend anything. And we still haven't tested yesterday's point of control, which is at 28.46. Right. And in order to do that, you got to get above 28.41 first. And again, there's no big deltas, which is unusual. You know, the deltas are all 1600s, the best I see so far. That's this guy right here. You got to break him. Then you have 1635 on top. Bit. Going back to test him right here. See that? So we're just bouncing between these 2 points. And it's hard to trade that, especially if you're looking for any kind of range extension. Ralph, I see what you were looking for in that short. You would have expected that it would have rejected there most of the time. We're backside testing that 73.44 on NQ. You see where it's just ticky tock, and ES isn't weak yet. It's been the strength between the two of them. And we've been making higher lows on a 5 minutes ever on NQ ever since. Can I see this? 9:30. Excuse me. Yeah, that's right. Ever since 9:30, we set a low at the bottom of the first hour, IB low. We've been making higher lows on a 5 minute all the way through there and higher highs. So let's see what happens if we can clear it up. Yep, I agree. And that's exactly what it did. And now we've traveled to the other end of the range, and now we're just going to chop everyone through here. So my recommendation is hands off. 20 minutes until London close. And we just shifted up on the point of control up to 39.70, 39.50 is the point of control now for the day. We just shifted it up. Actually, that's not accurate. 28.37.50 still it. I apologize. Not according to TradeStation, but that's odd. 20K, but according to Sierra charts, point of control still 38. Who has the point of control? 37.50 or 39, guys? Or 39.50? What do y'all show? 37.50 still, Christina. Yeah, that's what I have too on CR charts. TradeStation's wrong. Delta's not improving as we push up here, by the way. And all the shorts get crushed. People got to be pulling their hair out looking at NQ going, but NQ and the S keeps going up. Back to 41.25. That's that value area low again. We've been banging against it all morning long. NQ now trying to lift above 73.44. I'm not taking that long either because we're in balance. We're just pricing back up on the other end of the range. Notice that we're testing right up into this big delta over here, off to the left. And normally, I'd say short the daylights out of that, but it showed no weakness at all, right? The bottom of that is 71.41.50. That's right what we're testing up into right now. The top of that is right there, 42.75. So if we can't get above that, then we roll back down. We're just testing the biggest delta on top is what we're doing. So it's not very conducive to trading unless you're going to scalp through it. Everyone has a different point of control. Christina, you're working off of 24 hours, aren't you? On your profile? Or just RTH? Okay, so the RTH TPO, which is what I have my trade station set to, is trading at the point of control is at 39.50 right now by a few hundred contracts. Again, I think the short side's really hard consistently. And the clue there is when we got back above and held above the back into the low for the overnight session on Delta. I just did not, I should have flipped against that 1680. I didn't have my hat on correctly. London closes in 15 minutes. I have zero idea how they close that out, although we are not tanking on NQ anymore. We've been making higher highs and higher lows. And I know better than to short that on a 5-minute bar. And ES is making higher highs and higher lows on 5 minutes and 1.5 range bars. Delta's improving along with price as well, right? We're coming back for a zero line test. Everyone got short figuring NQ would drag it down. This is what you see everyone's covering now. Although we're still below Thursday's low on NQ, we were unable to test Wednesday's low, right? That's why you have to manage the bearishness factor. $18.17 is now the biggest delta on the way up and the biggest delta of the day during the RTH right there. No problem, Ralph. I think it's a balanced day. So for me, the target's 45, 46 above. I'm not great. I'm not great at this particular. I don't like this grind one way and the other. I agree with the 42.25 and the 42.50. What's your stop on it? Nice job, Christina. Yeah, there's a huge argument in the trading world. Half the world's like RTH, half the world's 24 hours. I like RTH, but I don't have a this is right or this is wrong. I do know this. Delta's improving all the way up a price. We're back to the zero line on that. It makes sense. You usually get some kind of rejection there. The caveat there is London close. If you think about it, the majority of the volume goes off in the US session. So after the first 2 hours, they usually match up anyways. We have stopped one timing to the downside. Again, it's just a balanced day. I won't be shorting until I get underneath that biggest delta at the earliest, if I short at all. I goofed that 1680. I should have been long against it. And I goofed at 1116. I had it marked off and I didn't take it. I just should have gone, hey, it's a 2-point stop. Instead, I took the momentum trade without actually having been broken. So, serves me right. And we slow to a grind at the very top. NQ's still stuck in its white zone at 73.51.96, hasn't broken above. If you'll wait to get below your biggest delta, if you're going to be aggressive for that backside test, then you have to break VWAP. It just comes at a crappy place. It'd be better if we stretched up here. And by the way, the backside test of this, if we push above, should get defended the first time. That becomes our pivotal delta of the day. London close in 5 minutes. Backside test of value area high. There's going to be a lot of noise there. See how they came right to the tick right over here? Now people are going to try and grab that backside test and see if they can push it up 71.45. It's only natural, right? See how he came? It was all locals trading. See how he just came right to the tick on that? Right to the tick, right to the tick. Well, all these guys who shorted right there, they're probably going to flip and cover right there. It's minutia trading, but you would expect them to go, oh, we're back above value area low. We're trapped back in for the prior day. Let's go to the other end of the range, right? And you can see them where they're taking it off right there. We still haven't closed over this guy here yet. They tried to push over him and they haven't. It's worth noting. Two minutes until London closes. Expect algos in the next 2 minutes. I agree with you, Ralph, 100%. I'd rather be long than short right here. Until I actually see some kind of, we've had 3 days of short squeeze up on ES or put buying, whatever you want to call it, right? Where sellers just haven't been able to make any stand to the downside, right? We're currently trading above the day's value area, right? Which for the day today, we've established value at right here, 42. You got to be back underneath 42 to get any kind of process, any kind of progress to the downside. And the point of control is still below at 38, 28, 37.50 for the 24 hours. And it's still below on the RTH at, according to TradeStation, 39.50. Either way, what's going on here is any shorts or anyone who thought the EOS is going to roll over is having to stumble over themselves to cover, right? And you would think with all the news and all the world and all the negativity you hear, we should be going down, and that's the wrong trade. And again, if I can't get below my biggest delta, which is that 1817 there, there's no shorting for me. And we are closed. So expect it to get much more grindy once London closes, right? We've traded the whole range. This is perfect balance, right? Got to get underneath my biggest deltas. NQ has been making higher highs and higher lows since 9:30. That's a whole hour of trending up, right? It's making a V shape and it's catching a lot of people short, right? I'd be patient. Delta's at the zero line, which is the high of the day, right? And now you're gonna have people fighting between trying to break that high and push up, and people trying to use that high, that swing high, as a short location. It's a battle royale. Let someone else win it. Unless you had that long off the low, that's just a straight up grind for an hour. Let them do something, right? Besides trap people. And keep running. People have to be pulling their hair out going, how's ES rolling up like this? It's only down 1 point. Wow, what a bummer. I should have taken that backside test. I goofed that trade. That 42 on the backside test, 42, 41, again, that's support now. Very micro support, but it's support down to the VWAP. And there's little in the way of rotation, counter rotation. Notice it was all grind down, all grind up, meaning the whole grind was, as opposed to yesterday. Here, this is what I'm talking about, so you have reference. Okay, see how it started moving two sides, down, up, right? Over here, this was easy because this was just straight breakout. This is what we have right now. See how it finally opened up in the afternoon? Rotation down, rotation up, rotation down, rotation up. Easier to make money here. This was pretty straightforward because we consolidated for an hour, had a break on the biggest delta, backside test, and go. We don't have that here. What we've done is we've just have an extended balance range, right? Where we haven't broken out, we haven't broken down. We're now inside yesterday's value, and normally what I would say is this 49 would be the test, and delta's in danger of going positive, right? If it gets over 20,000, we turn into a trend day up, right? So it hasn't done that. It's at the zero line. We continue to push on price. The immediate target is 45, 46, right? And again, I couldn't figure out the handle for the long, and that's okay, but I'm surely not going to turn around and just keep shorting it as it runs up. Also, the point of control has not shifted up on either the 24-hour or the RTH. I don't know why this is not. I got to check out that point of control on Sierra charts when I get a chance. And notice how mechanical it is. See how we just went right to the tippy top here? And you get a little quick response on sellers. That's locals trading. So we're looking for a big delta, and then either like yesterday, right? So if we squeeze back over to yesterday, even if, again, I'm very hesitant to short when delta is that strong. Okay. This is your biggest delta on the way up, the 66.82. Like I said, once we got underneath it yesterday, I'm going to spread this out. Right? It's literally telling you the biggest buyer of the day. We closed underneath. See how we can't close back above them? They came back and tried and tried and tried. Took forever. Again, I did not short it. Right? They tried and tried to get above that 66.82, as you can see. Finally, you close underneath them. One last backside test. Roll all the way down. Right? Then we came back up to test 46, which was, I don't know what 46 was, why we used that. We thought we made 46.50. We didn't. Then we finally broke value area, tested down in the biggest delta below. See that? Testing the biggest delta below, and then short squeezed them all the way back up, right? And then we've just balanced in between all those big deltas all the way through. And no one apparently has a solid trade plan for today because the market's acting very indecisive, and it's hard to trade this when you get that. Also notice the lack of speed bars. This is the first speed bar if we get it. It's starting to show up, and the lack of big deltas. So it's important to me that as easy as it was to make money yesterday, that I not hand it back today, right? Really, really important. And not on mine. Something's got to be wrong with mine. You know that? Let me reset this. Where did it shift to, Bill? Now it matches TradeStation. Got it. At 28.39.50. Mine doesn't. That's so weird. Let me do this. Edit, delete all data and download. Oh, I didn't realize it was going to do it for the whole stupid computer. Okay, guys, it's going to go down for just a second as it downloads all the data. Suck. I thought I could do it for just that chart. I'm pulling it from a 1 minute RTH chart, my time frame. Here, I'll show you the chart, Bill. Correct me if I'm wrong. Here you go. Chart settings, 8:30 to 15:14. Right? Chicago time. It's all correct. Just hasn't shifted. And that's coming from CME. That's Sierra Charts data. So I don't know what the issue is there. I'll resolve it a little bit later. So when it's slow and grindy like this, guys, it can get frustrating. Check your patience, check your management style, make sure you know what you're looking for and where you're good at making money and where you're not good at making money. Like I suck at this, right? So I'm going to do much less trading in this environment. I truly suck in this environment, right? So I'm going to pull the trigger a whole lot less because, again, the goal is simply to be profitable, not to trade over and over in an environment that doesn't benefit me, right? I'm not underneath a big delta. I need that, right? So this is a cool solution to your trading, right? You need a big delta. You need to get underneath or backside test a big delta. You don't have it, right? We know they show up because we trade them constantly, right? So what you got to do is sit there and wait patiently. Are we going to break out into a trend day up? Who knows? Maybe. We're probably just going to likely trade through up into this 45, 46 and maybe test yesterday's value area high. Either way, see how we closed above, we backside tested value area low. This is the likely target, right? Now, this should provide a counter rotation at that point. We're very mechanical. It's very much locals trading, right? It also looks like everyone got too bearish and they are grinding them. Literally in this environment, what you have is retail traders in control, right? And you have guys who've shorted or are in cash who are patiently waiting for a pullback. The problem is we've come so far off the low, right? Painfully off the low. We just rotated all the way off of 28.35, right? The 50-60 blew up and we're all the way back to the high of the day, right? Anyone who shorted the 50-60, see how this had to be the 50-60. They kept rejecting off of it and VWAP thinking, that's where we go lower. And we're just grinding. Well, guess where they're going to push them to? Right to 45, 46. Why wouldn't you push them there? Right? They got no rotation off, and they go, it's just a little behind. It's just a little, I'm starting to lose a lot of money. So you had the real suckers down here, me, but I covered quickly, right, with the poor read. Guys shorting the 50-60 at the mid on a balanced day, which is a horrible idea. And where are they going to have to push to? Well, guess what? We're going to make you cover your short into the high of the day, right? And that's exactly what they're doing here. Unfortunately, I just don't have an entry. But just like I know not to get short, like I should have known not to get short at the bottom, I'm not going to short the top just because it's the top, right? I'm going to let it establish. And there's a real danger that we go all the way back up into yesterday's high, right? And the week high. Yesterday's high. Excuse me. That's correct. Yesterday's high. And we retest that 51.75 if we can make it up there. If. we can make it up there. Okay, so see how we're now pushing to the zone. If you want to short, this is location, right? I don't want to short because I can't get behind my biggest delta, and the price action is non-supportive of a counter rotation, right? So no, I don't want to put on a short at all. Ah, I get it. Okay, so if you have CME, Bill has a great point. If you have CME data, which this chart is based on, okay, here, I'll show you this. If you have CME data, it's pulling the data from the CME only and not contracts that are traded off the CME versus gain, which versus a gain capital feed, which pulls all contracts traded, right? So I'm going to say it again versus a gain delta or trade station, which is all contracts traded. That's why CME's volume point of control has not shifted, but CME's has not. Okay, that makes sense, Bill. Thank you. I'm going to guess that all washes out at the end of the day. So I didn't get the long, but notice I'm not getting crushed on the way up, and that's okay. I read the day wrong. I got the day right, actually balanced, but I read it wrong. I just made one error in decision making. Notice any of the decisions I made, like I said, I'm going to short again at the mid, VWAP, any of that. Stop, 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 stop. When you don't have your read right early in the day, stop, right? Completely stop. Don't partially stop. Don't go, oh, I'll get it right later. Usually my first trade of the day is the best trade of the day or the correct trade of the day. So I know when I start off on the wrong foot, I slow down really quick. I know I'll also probably get a trade somewhere in here. I also know there's no way in heck let's see if there's anything untested up here. Where are we? 36. What do we have upstairs here from yesterday? The biggest delta, by the way, from yesterday was this 6,000 delta prior to the close of the day up here. And they may defend that, even though the anomaly wasn't there. So just keep that in mind. Also notice that, see how we pushed in, rejected out. Interesting. Maybe, see how they tested this in Asia, and they tested this again in Europe. So maybe that's where we're going to push everyone to, is right to that biggest delta. So keep that in mind. This may be the ultimate short squeeze target. Maybe that big delta from 47, 48 up there. Either way, the price action is not conducive to shorting deltas at the high of the day, right? If delta busts over 20,000, you know I'll be looking for a long on pullbacks. So I already know how that game works. And if you don't think we can rally today, neither does anyone else, which is exactly why we're getting what we're getting. So we're getting the initial rejection and pause out of that zone. That's how it's supposed to be, right? My concern is because of the lack of rotation and the complete one-sided tripping over one another, right? I like to see charts bouncing up and down. You know, here, I'll draw it out so it doesn't look like I'm, where is my, there it is. Right, I like to be able to see what I'm drawing. I like to see price action going, hey, look, we go up, we go down, we go up, we go down, we go up, we go down, we tag in, we go down. So I know I can get my 2 points out of here. I am always intimidated when the market's doing this because I'm afraid I'll just get in here and go, oh, there's another 2-point stop. Yep, resistance level worked, but I didn't get rejection. It just took 20 minutes and then popped up, right? So what do I do about that? I wait till the conditions match my trading needs, right? And so again, I wait till the conditions match my trading needs. This does not match my trading needs. And by the way, we're right into, you can see it, we're testing right into the point of control from yesterday. Right? It tends to be pretty noisy around there. See how we're testing right into the TPO and volume point of control from yesterday? We're pushing right into that. So it's mechanical. Notice it stopped almost right to the tick, right? It's just not very many people are participating right now. So it's just grinding. Realize also that because of the way that we're grinding, it could reverse and do the exact opposite in the other direction, which is why if I'm going to buy a shallow dip, I want to see delta over 20K, right? Otherwise, if delta's at 7,800, I'm not buying a 2-point rotation back, right? Because we could just flip this price action and roll it the other way. When delta's above 20K, 10 off RTH lows. I agree, Ralph. When delta's below, I know that that's when I can get big counter rotations out of that. So I'm kind of left with a shrug my shoulders area. Is the zone doing its job? Yep. We're pausing here. See? It's doing its job. Is it going to reject from there? That's the part I don't know. By the way, we're working on the biggest delta of the day, which is good. We need that. Getting underneath that guy, then backside testing him would set you up for potential short, right? If you can get underneath him, right? If you can't get underneath him, it doesn't matter. Now, if you have intentions to swing, this is your location. But just know you're going to may take some heat on this all the way up to that 49, especially if they have the shorts badly trapped. And my big concern is this. NQ ain't weak anymore, and it's above its 50-60 retrace for the day. Look at that. We have not gone below 1 5-minute bar since 9:30 this morning. We've been unable to close. One time have we closed underneath the 5-minute bar. See that? I'm with you, and they may reject, but again, the price action blows all straight down, all straight up, right? I've lost enough money in my lifetime on days like this. I'm cool. I'll wait till it opens up. I realize that this does not make, there's the bonds. Bonds are starting to roll a little bit. 145 is pretty magical, Peter. And if you think it should be short, write down the reasons why you have that it should be short there. I'll tell you my reasons. It's the point of control for both volume and TPO. If you know much about Dalton, those make better targets than initiation points, right? And what am I looking for? The biggest delta of the day to get printed, right? An impulse move down, a breakdown with maybe a 50-60 retrace, anything besides let me just short for the sake of shorting, because I know the short is the wrong side of the trade no matter. Yeah, it's not liquid. And Daniel's absolutely correct. I can't stress this enough, right? And believe me, I left the YouTube channel open all day, right? Yesterday I was kicking ass. We had a 10-point trade, was pretty much our first trade was worth 10 points, right? I just didn't get it right today, right? As a matter of fact, I shorted in the wrong location. And what I looked at, which I haven't looked at in days, is I looked at NQ, saw how weak NQ was, and figured ES would follow. And so did everybody else. And now everyone's going, oh, NQ's reversing. The world's not ending. See that? That zone acted as resistance. My guess is we're going to push into this 4650, 48 area and reject out of here. If I had to guess, if we're going to reject. I'll do that here. Why can't you see it? Aren't I sharing it with you, Peter? I'm sorry if I'm not. Here, hold on a sec. Here. I apologize. You should see now. You got to remind me when it's not. I have no way of knowing if you can see it or not. How about now? You just printed the biggest algo of the day, that negative 2031 on bonds. See that right there, guys? If you don't get back above that 145 and 130 seconds, you probably got to roll over here. I'll show you. Peter, let me know if you see it. Okay, see that? That's the biggest delta of the day. We close, now we're underneath it. As long as you don't get back above that delta right there, right? That, which is, so you're basically 25, 30 seconds against 145 and 130 second. You might want to go 230 seconds just to be sure. You have a good chance if you can get below this 28.35. So I stand corrected. This is the biggest delta from yesterday afternoon. This is the biggest delta today. So look how that got treated yesterday. Oops. Look how that got treated yesterday. When we were coming through here, we were at, so that was that 28.33 right there. So see, once we close below, backside test, backside test. Now watch what happens when it gets above. See how this closes back above on this 327, right? And then it backside tests into it, but it lifts. That ended up being the critical pivot point, right? The point being that if it was going to break away, it had to get underneath that 28. It had to get underneath that 28.33 bar right here. And it, see how many times it backside tested it? It just couldn't break. And the next thing that was holding it up was it couldn't even get down to test at 21.42 actually. So it just couldn't get below. And there was also value areas in there that had to be broken on top of that. So that's a good first clue. It's the biggest negative delta of the day. It's the first, and you'll see when you got the biggest negative delta of the day yesterday, that's what ran that roll down from 1830 seconds down to 530 seconds. So it was a good trade. There's your same bar, momentum and volume all in one shot, right? So I always find that interesting. Again, I'm just fine tuning the bonds. I'll start trading them next week. Why do I have this working like this? There we go. Yeah, I'm not having, I don't have NQ up, Tom, because I've been finding it a big distraction. I am posting the chart to you, so you should have it on your desktop. I don't mind, obviously, anyone who wants to trade it is welcome to trade it, but my focus is turned completely to ES. We can talk about it if you like, but I have it up on another screen on my other computer, but it's become a little distracting. So my guess is we're going to test up into that 46.75, 48, but there's no sellers, right? There's just no sellers. I think it's got to get below 21.30 seconds, Tom, to get you rolling to the downside. If I were going to short, I would start working this whole. I'd look to get underneath a bar, either on a 5-minute chart or on, but this is the area if I were going to swing it short that I would start considering doing it. And I want to be clear, I'm not doing that, right? I'm not doing that. If you look at your NQ chart, you'll see 5-minute over 5-minute just stacking on top of each other. We're back to Thursday's low. We've made a complete U-turn. And NQ and ES was not weak yesterday. I want to say it again. ES was not weak yesterday. Delta continues to improve. 11K. It's improving with price, right? Performance is improving with price. I don't have location to get long, right? But I sure as hell don't have to short it. Even the zone, which last night, that zone, by the way, was beautiful multiple times, right? So we got underneath, rejection, rejection. See how we pushed up in here overnight? This area, 47, 48, they're both resistance areas, but we pushed all the way up to 49. Would not surprise me to see us do that because they've got the shorts trapped and NQ's running like a banshee. We are now off the lows from a roughly 72, 71, 73.25, let's call it, all the way up to 73, 76, a 50-point up rotation. And NQ is in trend-like mode, and it's about to make a complete V shape as we're only a few points off the high, right? It's important to know when you can short and when you cannot short, right? I want to say that again. It's important to know when you can short and when you cannot short, okay? This is the area I would normally look for rejection in the chart. I'm going to defer to price action over trade location, okay? I'm above the first 30-minute high. Okay, so when you look at this chart, right, we always have decisions to make. I know my best shorts don't work when I'm trading above the first 30-minute high. I need to get back in here to make my shorts work. Guess what? There's a low volume node right in front of 28.44. It's going to get bought. So right now, what you're hoping for, if you short this area, right, what you're hoping for is a trip back to that low volume node where you are going to get met with, guess what? Responsive buyers at 28.44, right? That's if you can get back there because there's no indication that we have any kind of counter rotation, right? If you look at the 5,000 volume chart, which I'm going to drag over here, just another way of looking at the same market. Do you really want to short that? Really, really? Because I really, really don't, right? So I know when to put my hands in my pocket. I know when I've been beaten, right? I got beaten by the market today. No problem. That's okay, right? I got beaten in terms of I can't take the trade, right? That's what I'm trying to say is I've gotten beaten in terms of I can't take the trade. There's a lot of day traders have the opinion that if they miss this long, that the short is the next available trade for them, that they can take the backside of that trade. And that is incorrect. The market can keep going up. We're not in a bear market. And the short does not equal the opposite of missing the long. The wait for the pullback, right, which we'll probably get sometime today, is the smarter way to trade that, okay? Unless you have a different strategy or you know that you have a significant edge of when the market's going straight up and you can tell when it's going to reverse. But I don't want to short straight up. As much as I dislike buying straight down, I abhor straight up shorts. They've killed me in my career. And I know we're about to print the biggest delta, by the way, if this 3,000 delta prints. And I know I got to get underneath here. And now if that prints and you want to short, you can backside test for a tight stop against the 28.49. Just remember, we're likely to push up into that 28.49. I doubt they let it just sit there and not touch it. They may, but that's my guess. Peter, you need back inside of 144.29, 30 seconds, which you've got. Right, that's today's value area high. Okay. So as long as it can hold underneath that 29, 30 seconds, you're in good shape, I think. And if we look at that, and then we look at this, which is the RTH. You need to get back inside of, you got to get back below that 27, 30 seconds. You've done that. And now your next test is to get inside yesterday's 144, 20, 30 seconds is your next challenge. So that's RTH and 24 hours for you, buddy. Here, I'll show everyone what we're looking at so you can see at the same time. So see the rejection? We came right to the top of that, right? So now if that holds and you're willing to take the stop from 46.75 to 48 and a quarter, if that holds, now you have a good chance of it's showing you that there's potential sellers there. Does that make sense? Okay, and you've now printed, it's not the biggest delta. Yes, it is by 6 ticks. So if this holds, right, now you've got the potential to get them to roll it down and come back and do some profit taking. Again, I don't like shorting straight up, but if I were going to short, I'd be willing to shorten this area, and my stop will literally have to be 2 points. So 46.75 to 48 and a quarter, 1 and a quarter points, whatever that is. That's what I would look for. That's my 2 cents. And here, I'll share this in a second. I want to come back over here. Just watch this really quick. And down she rolls. They should come back and retest that 47. That is now the biggest delta. Oh, no, the 26.54 trumps the 25.60. It's not the biggest delta yet. Sorry, apologies, mathematics. But that was a very interesting bar. That was a bar at the high of the day with a big positive delta, and it closed on the low. They did come back to the biggest delta and reject. Let's see if they come back up for a test. Now, realize we're just backside testing yesterday's point of control. Now, see how we've gotten above it? Now we see if we get below it, right? This is usually a noisy area. And we're one timing to the upside now on the half-hour bar. And that currently ends at 28.42. A trade below 28.42. Let's get the exact number on that. Trade below right now 28.42 and a quarter. So 28.42 would end the one timing, and then look for a 50-60 back, which oddly enough would be about that 45.50 area. Would be the 50-60 back, and then for a swing, your stop would be the high of the day. If you're looking for a short, right now all we're doing is coming back against this 26.54. And if you don't beat him, they're just going to swing it back up and test that value area high again. So all it's doing is coming off after a straight run up. They finally squeeze them up. It does not mean it's a great short. See, we come into VWAP, volume weighted average price, and you get responsive buyers. And you should come back and retest that 28.46.75 to 28.47. Your stop has to be at a minimum 28.48.50. And realize you may just get tagged right up to that value area high and still reject down, which is why I was saying this is the area you can build in if you want to be short and you have some kind of thesis that says we're going to roll back over. I don't have that thesis. And I'd want to be underneath 28.45 would be the over under on the anomaly in this area. right? So if we got underneath and impulse, say to 42, that 45, 46 on the backside test would then be a potential setup. And then what Bill is sharing, I'm going to share with the room. So if you want to short, it will be below the biggest positive delta and backside test. If it's balanced day, which I think it is, it'll be a trap back to mid. Running out of time, so I'll be not taking it. Okay. Well, that would be the push right there. Again, market showing no inclination to give up the ghost to the short side. You got to really ask, did the bears give it their best shot? They did. Why is anyone going to sell at this point? I'd be emboldened if I was long. The other way you can look at it is off the 5,000 volume chart, right? Just simple stuff. There's the top of the channel, right? So look, we're just going bottom of channel, top of channel. And we broke the channel over here on the 5,000 volume chart. Should have caught that earlier. Better do my drawings a little more accurately next time. Bottom of channel. Bottom of channel maybe. There we go. Top of channel, bottom of channel. You'd want to see a channel break and backside test, right? All that good stuff. And then from up here, really customize control bar 1, tools. There's your point of control, 28.4750 on the backside test of this. And down here, this will be interesting. I wonder what we backside tested on this. Here's your um, um, where the heck? There's the point of control, 28.4750. And you know what I forgot to do? Right click. Now let's redraw this. There was the point of control. So see how we lifted and we just barely missed it right there off the bottom. See that? We came right to it, right? So if I was going to short, I'd want to grab that. That's the accumulation of the point of control, these three bars up on top. I don't want to see it get tested. And if you'll also notice, we've come right back up and tested that 46.70. See how we tested that 47? So that's the other area that we've come back up and tested and rejected. So it's either going to be the bottom of this bar or the point of control, one of the two. Again, I still have long signals firing up here, and I don't have almost zero hope of any more than a 1 or 2 point rotation in the current price area. 28.56.75 to 28.57. Christina, I'll tell you. Remember, I'm working only off the RTH on those. 28.57. I would say the important one there is a naked point of control from the RTH. If it got there, it should test into this 58.75 because that's the naked volume point of control. We'll go back and look. Okay, so very interesting day here. What you have, let's see if we've tested this. What you have. No, I would disagree with you, Christina. I would say you have a low volume node. Low volume node, clear right there from 54 to 56.25. And then the actual one, it's actually, there's two anomalies within the, but it starts at 58.75 and goes all the way up to 61. That's the key. That's the big one. You see how much time we spent in there and how much volume built in there, right? This is the low volume node. I'd expect an initial rejection out of that 54, 56.75. Or if it consolidates there and fills it in, then it can continue up. That's how I see that area. But this is one I would normally I ignore this for anything other than a scalp, and I key off of this for the bigger rotation is how I would handle that. So see how we're backside testing now? We're trying to backside test up to 46. I would think we backside test all the way up to 46.75, right? And then 46.75 to 48 is your resistance. The problem is the price action is non-conducive to you getting your counter rotation. It just kind of sucks, unfortunately. But we know where the point of control is up there. That's helpful. And the reason why the people are interested in that point of control like that is a lot of times it'll tag immediately to, like, it'll go 47.25, 50 and reject immediately off of it. You got to have two things to be willing to trade that. You got to be willing to bet that it'll actually get there. And B, you got to be willing to bet that it actually can rotate down, which we've shown zero interest in doing. So you're basically top calling. We haven't broken the channel, right? We haven't broken the channel. Nothing negative has happened. And that's not PA I like to short right there. Believe me, I want to trade. But it's not going down low enough to get along, and we're heading into New York lunch. In the last 2 days, New York lunch has been 2 hours of an hour to an hour and a half of chop fest. So let me restate so everyone's clear. Your risk is that we're going to come and test value area high for shorts. No longs are setting up because we're not balancing, breaking out of balance and then going. My biggest delta is right here, 26.54. I've got to be below my biggest delta. I don't have a compromise on that. However, we rejected off of yesterday's biggest delta upstairs, right? And now you've got to decide. So you've got conflicting information. It's not clear. Like yesterday, see how crystal clear I was? Backside test, 40.25, I'm long. Here, I'm long. The market's not laying up for me today, right? It's not just going, here's your trade, take it, right? So I'm having to compromise, right? And I'm having to make a decision as to whether I want to trade or not. And what I'm saying is I cannot determine whether we're going to bust this guy. And usually me betting that we're going to break the biggest delta is a losing bet, even if everything else is setting up. The thing that I do know that a lot of traders get agitated about, including myself, I used to, is that what they can't visually see. Why are all these toolbars jacked? Hold on a second here. Window. Window control bar. There we go. What traders usually can't see is they go, well, if we come from up here and then we come all the way down here, I've totally missed the trade. That's what I hear. That's not true. You come all the way down here, you get a backside test over here. Against this guy, you have a stop. It's the biggest delta. There's heavy volume there. And now you have a free ride back to VWAP. That's a good trade, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Here, anyone who shorted here, right, which was fine, or you shorted here, you just had to know that it was going to stop there. I mentioned that it might be able to stop, right? It just wasn't my trade. You had to beat this guy. Notice we've tested in, tested in, tested in, and this guy is defended. I don't like fighting against my strongest buyer of the day because if he thinks it's trend up or it turns into trend up, I'm going to look back at that and go, yep, never got below. And that's why I handed myself a 2 or a 4-point loss on that trade. Or I put myself in a conundrum. I short this thinking 40, right? And I go, I don't cover here. And then I go, it comes all the way back against me. I stop it for a few ticks or I take a loss on it or I get it break even. What I'm saying is when it doesn't all lay up clearly, you put yourself in a box that doesn't let you trade very easily, right? You start going, well, maybe I should have done this or maybe I should have done that, right? What I would encourage you to do is wait till it's utterly clear like it was yesterday and there's no conflicting information standing in the way of the chart like yesterday was, right? And those are the trades I like to take. And I'll show you what I took yesterday just to be utterly clear. Again, yesterday. Long, right here. Biggest delta of the day. Scale 2 points. Backside test. Long again, 28.40. Out 28.45. Right? No shorts for me. But I did say if you were going to short, you had to get underneath the 65.30 and then plan for an extended, prolonged battle there, which is what we got. Again, that's all over New York lunch. You got this crap right here. So you had to have the patience of a saint, right? And then the next thing I said was if we came back and tested this guy at 28.40, the breakout again right here approximately, that would be a break of value area low. You'd want to see a break of value area low and a test of this area in general. We break value area low right at the end of the day, right? We test that area in general, 28.40. The low was 28.38, right? We get the biggest delta of the roll down there. See how it came right to the low? We closed above. I took this trade at early 28.41. I took smaller size at least, and I gave it a generous stop. But as I drew out yesterday, when you break below value area low and your point of control, which was sitting at 28.46, is 8 periods wide, you're very likely to drive right back in. And that's exactly after market, it hit 28.46. It's exactly what it did, right? So at any rate, long story short, I'm looking for clear setups where I'm absolutely crystal clear on where I'm going to be able to get my money. Otherwise, I feel like I can survive pretty clearly without having to fight these guys or figure out a bad trade, right? I'm only down a little bit after having a pretty monster day yesterday. And I agree with what you said, Daniel. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's true because, if you do it over time, if you're shorting for no reason whatsoever because you just think it should stop going up, the world is littered with busted traders who have done that. I'm not into that. Being a busted trader, that is. And you're right. When volatility is higher, so Daniel has a good point. When volatility is higher, you get your 2 to 4 points really fast out of key locations. There's no volatility, right? VIX has to be floating at 0 right now. We're just not counter rotating here, right? So even NQ, we've only rolled down from the high. It looks like it was about 75. We're trading at 65. We've traded 10 points in 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes, right? So it'll open up somewhere in here and give us a chance. You could push 74.20. I'd agree with that, Daniel. So that's what I think right now. I guess so. I don't usually count V-shaped days as going back down, Daniel. It wouldn't be in my I wouldn't be betting on that. You're above the 50-60 retrace for the day. We usually continue higher after that. Not today, at least. Oh, 74.60 to 74, 74.10 to 70. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. 74.20. I'd agree. And here we are consolidating. We've built more shorts in. Back to that 46.50. Guys, I do believe I'm going to go to lunch here in a minute. This is pretty bad. And I found that I'm trading better not looking at NQ than I am with NQ. So unless you have a specific question on it, you're going to have to hit me up because I'd prefer not to have it up on my screen. It just, yeah. Notice that we're trying to break the bottom of that channel on the 5,000 volume chart. We're starting to fall out of it for the first time. We haven't gotten below there. See how they're holding that? Again, these are just different ways of looking at the thing, right? There's your 50-60 back. Trying to get underneath that 26.54. He's defended, defended, defended. I agree. So Bill's saying if he was going to short, so we're pushing underneath that delta. I would want to see a close underneath and then a quick. Okay, so there's two trades here. There's a close underneath, and then a quick backside test. If you're looking to short, I'm not. All right, so the trade is here. Okay, first you need to close underneath. Then the trade is the backside test. We don't want it to go back above 28.46. See how there's a seller sitting right there now, right? So, but what I want to see is the bar actually close below, come up and tag the backside test, right? And then roll, and then your test is back into 41 from here. So it's 44 for 41. And then at 41, I would expect a response. Why? It's the 56, 41.50 is the 50 back, 40 is the 62 back. There's VWAP there. And then you're also back to the support of 40 from the breakout from yesterday to the upside. So that's three things that are sitting in the same place, right? So let's do that again. Underneath 26.54, logical target is 28.41 to 28.38.50, right? The 50-60 is sitting at 41.50 to 40 roughly, and VWAP sitting right at 41 as well. That's where I would expect it to travel to. Again, what I would need to see is this bar close at 43.50. I'd want to tag a 44.50, and then I'd want it to roll. So that's now printed, right? Or should print. One more tick would print it. Backside test, back to 41. That's what I would look for. But the bar has to print first. So that's your trade if you're looking for a short. Yeah, but the way we've been trading it, watch it go straight to 41. Needs one more tick to print. The other thing you could have done is simply put a stop loss or stop short one tick below that bar, and you would have gotten a pretty quick point out of that. That's the other way to treat that. That should print. Whatever you do, just know you're going to sit here for a while. And see, because the algo's in balance, see how it misfires here? So this was your long, right? And it fires a short, it flags you out of the trade all the way back over here. Literally, you would have taken the trade here and exited right here. All right, so you'd end up making a tick on the trade, but that's all right. I don't mind that. But you got to know usually what it'll do when we're out of balance is it'll just rip. And that's where that's most effective. That should print now. No? Really? Not yet? There we go. So now the 4450, the backside test there, if you can retest and assuming that they just don't roll straight down. Remember, the PA has been odd. We've gone from straight up to straight down more than once. So then expect a response off of VWAP if it doesn't give the backside test. So you saw how hard that he worked against that 2654, how hard they had to work to break him, right? So expect somebody, that guy is trapped now, right? Expect him to offer back the other side when you come up against him. What's the biggest delta back here? Nothing. 1434. See that? They turn it. It's just the exact opposite PA. It's the same PA, just flipped backwards. Bill, I don't understand. Can you say that again, please? You're saying because the volume point of control on the red bar closed the biggest delta, thus no quick back retest. Okay, got it. So you're saying because the volume point of control closed underneath, it couldn't get back up to test this guy? Got it. Okay. I'll wait. Somewhere here, they give me a big opportunity today. And if not, let's come back and take them on Monday. But nothing is moving. Bonds, nothing's moving fast. To go trade copper or something. And remember, we're inside prior day's value, right? You normally expect up and down chop, not direct big moves. Outside of value is where you get the big moves. So think about it. You've gotten all these guys committed up here. If you get below value area low and below VWAP, now you have a bunch of guys trapped upstairs. That can provide fuel to the downside. Delta's still doing okay. Remember, we're coming back to a zero line test over here. We never got above 20K, so the argument for a two-sided market is still valid, right? I see I was going to lock that. Okay. Guys, unless this thing opens up here pretty soon, I'm not down with trading 1 point ranges. So it's too slow for me. I'll give it a little bit after 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock to see if it opens, but I may just shut it down for the weekend. Now, this is pretty pitiful trading. Looks like we're going to go straight for that 41. That 44.50 upstairs is still valid resistance. If they can get there. At 41 and a quarter is the value area low. Expect them to try to hold that the first time. It looks like that's exactly where we're going. If I was going to take a scalp to the upside, that's where I'm looking. Literally 41.50, 41 and a quarter. As a matter of fact, when we get there, unless we just flush through it, expect me to look for long at 41.50, 41 and a quarter. No, I'm with you. I understand, Daniel. It's just too far out on my time horizon to work through it right now. I'll do that over the weekend, but again, if you're trading the 41.50, 41 and a quarter, your target's the 44.50. And you actually got to get it there to actually make it work. But remember, we're on balance day. It's just yuck. It's a slow balance day, even worse. And this is a backside test on NQ of its support level at 51.96. And it's finding responsive buyers, just FYI. So far, they're holding it. They haven't gotten back below. We're still below Thursday's low on NQ, right? So quite the mixed market, right? It's just not the same market. That's all there is to it. They're headed in two opposite directions. That's really confusing for those if you don't trade a lot. That's truly confusing when you have markets that flip flop both ways, where one's going down and the other ES is going up. It's really hard to get continuity in there. And then markets like this challenge you when it's slow to wait for the best location. Really hard, right? Because you just run out of patience. And then when you get the trade, you're like, okay, it's gonna maybe work or not. Yeah. So I pulled in my mouse clicking considerably. All I know is it's harder to trade when they're disconnected, Daniel. I don't try to figure all that out about time length or how long they'll be disconnected. It's just harder to trade it. Someone contacted me yesterday when I went long 40 and a quarter. They didn't go long ES because NQ was so weak. And I was like, yeah, they're disconnected. So in the meantime, ES is unmotivated. And I am too. I'm going to shut up for a little while, guys. I'll be back in a bit. It's quiet right now. So for the more adventurous type, that 2654, 4450, your stop has to be 4650. It's 2 points. That's what you're targeting, and your target is down to 2841, where I would actually consider flipping long and would prefer to get a test down to that. I would prefer to get a test down to the 41, 4150 for a long the first time in this particular case than the short, but those are your two locations right now. So back in a while.